The challenge. The Grand Galactic Arena on Proxima Centauri b wasn't built to accommodate Earth species. Its environmental controls, designed for the comfort of various alien civilizations, created an atmosphere that was slightly too thin, gravity that was a touch too heavy, and lighting that cast everything in an eerie purple hue. Yet Colonel Tom Riner stood unflinching in the preparation chamber, his dark combat suit absorbing the strange light as he ran his hands through Max's thick fur. The Siberian tiger's muscles rippled beneath his touch, a low rumble emanating from deep within the magnificent creature's chest. Beside them, Nero, the larger of the two tigers, paced with practiced patience, his amber eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Both tigers had been with Tom since they were cubs, part of Earth's Classified Military Animal Integration Program, MAIP, designed to preserve and enhance Earth's apex predators in response to the growing galactic threat. "Your vital signs are stable, Colonel," Dr. Sarah Chen's voice crackled through his earpiece. Back on Earth, she and her team monitored everything through quantum-entangled sensors embedded in Tom's suit and the tiger's neural implants. Max and Nero are showing elevated adrenaline levels, but nothing outside expected parameters. Tom acknowledged with a slight nod, knowing the gesture would be picked up by his suit sensors. The stakes couldn't be higher. Earth's admission into the Galactic Council hung by a thread, with the Crear, a species of genetically advanced insectoids, pushing for humanity's rejection based on their primitive understanding of genetic engineering and inferior predator species. The challenge was simple, yet devastating in its implications: prove that Earth's natural predators could stand against the galaxy's engineered killing machines, or forfeit the right to preserve them. The Crear had already transformed countless worlds' native species into monstrous weapons, all in the name of genetic advancement. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing the massive arena above. Thousands of alien spectators filled the tiered seats, their bodies a kaleidoscope of shapes, sizes, and bioluminescent patterns. The air crackled with their excited chittering, clicking, and humming, a cacophony of anticipation. Colonel Riner, a metallic voice announced, its tone dripping with artificial courtesy. "The Crear High Commissioner Zarek requests your presence in the diplomatic box before the trials begin." Tom straightened his shoulders, checking the neural interface controls on his wrist display. The tiny green lights indicated strong connections to both tigers' implants, technology that didn't enhance their natural abilities but rather allowed for silent communication and tactical coordination. "Stay," he commanded softly, receiving acknowledging growls from both tigers. The preparation chamber's door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a hovering transport platform piloted by a spindly-limbed Arcturian. The journey to the diplomatic box took less than a minute, but it gave Tom time to observe the arena's full scope. The massive structure could shift and reconfigure itself, generating different terrains and environments for each challenge. Current betting odds scrolled across floating displays, the numbers heavily favored the Crear champions. The diplomatic box was a testament to excess, decorated with holographic trophies of conquered species and extinct predators. High Commissioner Zarek dominated the space, his 12-foot frame adorned with ceremonial armor that shifted colors like oil on water. His compound eyes fixed on Tom as he entered. "Ah, the human champion arrives," Zarek's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. "I trust you've had time to reconsider your position. There's no shame in withdrawing before the trials begin. Your tigers would make excellent breeding stock for our genetic programs." Tom met the alien's gaze steadily. "With respect, Commissioner, I don't think you understand what you're dealing with." Zarek's translator crackled with laughter. "Understanding? We have analyzed every predator species on your planet, human. Your tigers, while impressive by your standards, are painfully obsolete. Our youngest genetic architects could design something superior in their sleep cycle." "That's exactly my point," Tom replied, keeping his voice level. "You see them as designs. Objects to be improved upon. You've never bothered to understand what makes Earth's predators truly special." The Commissioner's mandibles twitched in annoyance. Enlighten me then, human. What hidden quality do your unmodified beasts possess that could possibly stand against generations of careful genetic engineering? Tom smiled slightly. Something you can't engineer, Commissioner. Something that comes from millions of years of natural selection, of learning to survive against all odds. Our predators don't just hunt, they think, they adapt, they work together. And most importantly, they form bonds. Bonds? Zarek's translator couldn't quite capture the mixture of amusement and disgust in his clicking response. You speak of primitive pack behaviors as if they're an advantage. Our champions are singular perfection, unburdened by such evolutionary baggage. A soft chime interrupted their conversation, the signal that the trials were about to begin. Tom turned to leave, but Zarek's voice stopped him. One last thing, human. When your tigers fail, and they will fail, we'll make sure to preserve some of their more interesting traits in our next generation of engineered predators. Consider it a form of immortality. Tom didn't respond. He returned to the preparation chamber, finding Max and Nero exactly where he'd left them. Both tigers watched him intently as he knelt between them. All right, boys, he whispered, activating their neural links. They think they know what we can do. They think they've got us figured out. He scratched behind Max's ears, earning a deep purr. Let's show them how wrong they are. The chamber's main display lit up with the announcement of the first trial. The arena above was transforming, its nanomaterial surface flowing like liquid metal as it generated the battlefield. Tom's eyes narrowed as he read the parameters. Trial 1, Survival Gauntlet. Environment, variable terrain. Opponents, multiple hybrid hunters. Objective, survive for 30 minutes. They're not even giving us a chance to warm up, Dr. Chen's voice noted in his ear. These are apex predators from 3 different worlds, spliced together. The data we're receiving. Tom, they're designed to hunt in packs. Tom stood, checking his suit's systems one final time. Good, he said, a slight smile playing at his lips. Because so are we. The floor beneath them began to rise, lifting their platform toward the arena above. Max and Nero moved to flank Tom, their powerful muscles coiled and ready. As they ascended, Tom could feel the neural link humming with energy, 3 minds beginning to synchronize as they had countless times before. The artificial sun of the arena grew brighter, and the roar of the crowd became deafening. But for Tom and his tigers, the world narrowed to the hunt ahead. They had trained for this, prepared for this, and now they would show the galaxy exactly what Earth's predators could do. The platform locked into place, and the force field surrounding them dissipated. The manufactured landscape before them was a maze of varying terrains, dense jungle, open savanna, rocky highlands, and swampy lowlands. Perfect for ambush predators. Perfect for hunters. Remember your training, Tom transmitted through the neural link. Remember who you are. Max and Nero's responses came not in words but in feelings, confidence, determination, and an eager readiness to prove themselves. As the countdown began, Tom felt a surge of pride. The galaxy thought they were about to witness a slaughter. They were right about that part. They just didn't know who would be doing the slaughtering. The signal sounded, and the hunt began. The survival gauntlet. The first roar that echoed across the arena didn't come from Max or Nero. It emerged from the shadows of the artificial jungle, a sound that seemed to combine the screech of a raptor with the deep bass rumble of an earthquake. Through the neural link, Tom felt his tiger's muscles tense, but neither flinched. They'd been trained to face the unknown. Movement at your 2 o'clock, Dr. Chen's voice crackled in Tom's ear. 3 signatures, no, 5. They're using some kind of adaptive camouflage. Tom didn't need the warning. He could feel Max and Nero's heightened awareness through their neural connection, their senses far sharper than any humans. The hybrid hunters were trying to encircle them, using the varied terrain to their advantage. The first attacker burst from the underbrush with frightening speed, a creature that looked like a nightmare fusion of a cheetah and a mantis, its segmented legs ending in razor-sharp claws. It aimed straight for Tom, obviously considering him the weakest link. That was their first mistake. Tom dropped and rolled as Max launched himself at the hybrid, meeting it in midair. The collision was spectacular, but Max had the better position. His massive paws slammed the creature into the ground, and his jaws closed around its throat before it could bring its claws to bear. One quick twist, and the hybrid went limp. Behind. Tom transmitted through the link, but Nero was already moving. The second hunter, a serpentine creature with multiple heads, tried to strike from above, dropping from an overhanging branch. Nero's response was pure fighting instinct refined by years of training. He reared up, catching the creature with his claws and using its own momentum to throw it into a nearby rock formation. The impact cracked the creature's exoskeleton, green ichor spraying across the stones. But there was no time to celebrate. The remaining hunters attacked as one, revealing themselves to be even more grotesque than their fallen companions. One looked like a cross between a wolf and a scorpion, its tail arcing with electrical energy. Another appeared to be some kind of giant arachnid with the head of a lion, while the third seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "They're coordinating," Dr. Chen warned. "These aren't mindless beasts, they're showing tactical awareness." Tom smiled grimly. "So are we." Through the neural link, he transmitted a series of tactical commands that he and the tigers had practiced countless times. The bond between them had grown so strong that complex strategies could be conveyed in mere moments of shared consciousness. Max and Nero split up, using the terrain to their advantage. The hybrid hunters, despite their genetic enhancements, were following basic pack hunting protocols. They hadn't evolved together, hadn't spent years learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. Their coordination was artificial, programmed rather than learned. The wolf-scorpion creature charged at Max, its electrical tail crackling. But Max had fought worse. He'd been specifically trained to handle energy-based attacks after humanity's first contact with alien weapons. He dodged the initial strike and rolled in the dirt, the soil helping to ground out the electrical charge. Before the hybrid could reset, Max was inside its guard, his powerful jaws crushing its spine at the base of the tail. Nero, meanwhile, was dealing with the arachnid lion. The creature had tried to trap him with some kind of webbing, but Nero used the rocky terrain to his advantage. He led the monster on a chase through a narrow canyon, always staying just ahead. The hybrid, focused entirely on its prey, didn't notice that each turn was taking it exactly where Nero wanted it to go. Tom had positioned himself near a cliff edge, seemingly cornered by the liquid metal creature. The hybrid's surface rippled with anticipation as it approached, probably assuming its prey was trapped. It hadn't noticed that the ground beneath its feet was becoming increasingly unstable. The plan came together in seconds. Nero burst from the canyon, the arachnid lion hot on his heels. At precisely the right moment, Max emerged from his flanking position, herding both creatures toward Tom and the liquid metal hybrid. The ground, weakened by the electrical attacks from earlier and Nero's careful path selection, began to crumble. Tom waited until the last possible moment before triggering the seismic charges he'd planted during his strategic retreat. The cliff edge collapsed, taking all three hybrid hunters with it. Even their enhanced bodies couldn't survive the combination of the fall and the avalanche that followed. 15 minutes remaining, Dr. Chen announced. But I'm picking up new signatures. They're releasing more hunters. The neural link hummed with anticipation as Max and Nero regrouped around Tom. Through their shared connection, he could feel their exhilaration. This wasn't just combat, this was vindication of everything they'd trained for. The next wave of hybrid hunters emerged from concealment, each more bizarre than the last. One appeared to be a fusion of a polar bear and some kind of crystalline entity, its fur interspersed with sharp, glowing fragments. Another looked like it had combined the worst aspects of a Komodo dragon and a giant centipede. In the diplomatic box high above, High Commissioner Zarek watched with growing unease. The humans' tigers weren't just surviving, they were systematically eliminating his best hybrid hunters. More concerning was how they fought. Each movement was precise, coordinated, showing not just natural hunting instinct but sophisticated tactical awareness. Impossible, he chittered to his advisors. Their neural implants must be doing more than just communication. Scan them again. But the scans showed the same thing they had before. The tiger's physical capabilities were entirely natural. The neural implants were doing exactly what the humans had claimed, nothing more than enabling communication and coordination. Back in the arena, the battle continued. Max and Nero moved like twin forces of nature, their natural hunting instincts enhanced by years of specialized training and perfect coordination through their neural link with Tom. The crystal bear hybrid discovered that its armored hide meant nothing when Max caught it at just the right angle, using its own weight against it. The Komodo centipede found that its multiple legs became a liability when Nero forced it into close-quarters combat in the rocky terrain. 10 minutes, Dr. Chen's voice was tense but proud. They're running out of hunters to throw at you. She was right. The arena floor was littered with the broken bodies of hybrid creatures, each one a testament to the superiority of natural evolution combined with intelligent training over artificial genetic engineering. The final 5 minutes brought the greatest challenge yet. The arena controllers released what appeared to be their emergency reserve, 3 massive creatures that seemed to combine aspects of Earth's most dangerous predators with alien biology. One had the massive build of a grizzly bear combined with the tentacles of some deep space horror. Another appeared to be a saber-toothed cat crossed with a mantis shrimp, its forelimbs capable of delivering explosive force. The third was something that defied easy description, its form constantly shifting between different predatory aspects. Tom felt a surge of determination through the neural link. Max and Nero were tired, but their fighting spirit was undiminished. Through their shared connection, strategy and instinct merged into something entirely new. They didn't just fight as a team, they fought as a single entity with 3 bodies, each movement complementing the others perfectly. The battle that followed would be talked about in the Galactic arena for years to come. The hybrid hunters, for all their genetic enhancements, couldn't match the perfect coordination of 2 natural predators fighting alongside a human who understood them completely. Max and Nero seemed to anticipate each other's moves perfectly, setting up combinations that no amount of genetic engineering could counter. When the final buzzer sounded, Tom stood with his tigers in the center of the arena, surrounded by the defeated bodies of their opponents. The crowd, which had started the trial jeering at the primitive Earth predators, had fallen into stunned silence. In the diplomatic box, High Commissioner Zarek's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. The first trial had been designed to wear down the Earth predators, to exhaust them before the more specialized challenges to come. Instead, it had turned into a demonstration of exactly why natural evolution, combined with intelligence and training, could triumph over artificial engineering. Your tigers are impressive, Zarek admitted grudgingly through the arena's communication system. But do not celebrate too quickly, human. The next trial will test more than just their fighting ability. We shall see how your natural predators fare when they must hunt something that was specifically designed to be unhuntable. Tom knelt between Max and Nero, checking them for injuries. Through the neural link, he could feel their satisfaction and readiness for the next challenge. They had passed the first trial, but all 3 knew this was just the beginning. Good boys, he murmured, scratching behind their ears. But save some energy. Something tells me the next round is going to require all of our skills. As the arena began to reconfigure itself for the second trial, the crowd's murmuring grew louder. They had come expecting to see Earth's predators humiliated. Instead, they had witnessed something unprecedented, the perfect fusion of natural hunting instinct, human intelligence, and technological cooperation. The next trial would begin soon, but for now, Tom and his tigers had made their point. Earth's predators weren't just surviving in the galaxy. They were proving themselves superior to anything genetic engineering could create. And they were just getting started. The hunt. The arena's transformation was spectacular. The nanomaterial terrain flowed like quicksilver, reshaping itself into a complex ecosystem that sprawled for what seemed like miles. Holographic projectors created the illusion of an alien sky, complete with 3 moons hanging low on the horizon. The temperature dropped significantly, and artificial wind carried strange, unfamiliar scents. Atmospheric composition is shifting, Dr. Chen reported through Tom's earpiece. They're recreating the environment of Nexus 7, a hunting preserve owned by the Crear. The gravity will be about 1.2 times Earth normal. Tom watched as Max and Nero adjusted to the new conditions, their movements slightly more deliberate under the increased gravitational pull. Through the neural link, he could sense their curiosity about the new scents and sounds surrounding them. High Commissioner Zarek's voice boomed across the arena. The second trial is simple, human. We have released a single prey creature into this environment. Your tigers must track and capture it within 2 hours. However, his mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. This particular creature was engineered specifically to be the perfect escape artist. It combines the best survival adaptations from 1,000 different species. The holographic displays showed their target, a creature about the size of a deer, but that's where any resemblance to Earth fauna ended. Its body seemed to shift between different textures and colors, and its legs could apparently reconfigure themselves for different types of movement. Most disturbing were its eyes, dozens of them, arranged in clusters that could move independently around its head. We call it the Phantom, Zarek continued. No predator has ever successfully captured one. They can adapt to any hunting strategy, mask their scent, even manipulate their own body temperature. Your primitive tracking methods will be useless here. Tom smiled slightly. We'll see about that. Through the neural link, he shared his initial observations with Max and Nero. The tiger's natural hunting instincts, combined with their years of specialized training, were already analyzing the challenge from multiple angles. The terrain is divided into 5 distinct biomes, Dr. Chen added. Desert, swamp, forest, tundra, and something that looks like a crystal forest. The Phantom can probably adapt to survive in any of them. Tom knelt between his tigers, speaking softly while transmitting more detailed tactical information through their link. This isn't about raw speed or strength anymore. We need to think like our ancestors did, before humans had tools, before we had technology. We need to think like hunters. The neural link hummed with shared understanding. Max and Nero had been trained not just to fight, but to hunt using the ancient techniques that had made their species such successful predators. More importantly, they had been trained to combine those instincts with human strategic thinking. As the trial began, they moved into the artificial wilderness with practiced stealth. The Phantom had a head start, but Tom wasn't worried about that. The first step wasn't to chase, it was to understand. Dr. Chen analyzed the environmental data. Look for patterns, anything that might help us predict its movement. The first hour revealed just how formidable their prey was. They caught glimpses of it several times, but each time it escaped using a different method. In the swamp, it seemed to dissolve into the murky water. In the desert, it changed its coloring to match the sand perfectly. In the forest, it moved through the canopy with impossible agility. But with each encounter, they learned more. Through the neural link, Tom could feel Max and Nero building a mental map of their prey's capabilities. More importantly, they were beginning to understand its behavior patterns. It's not random, Tom transmitted through the link. Look at how it chooses its escape routes. It's always taking the path that gives it the most options for its next move. The tiger's responses came as a mixture of images and instincts. They had noticed something else. The Phantom was so focused on having escape routes that it was actually limiting itself to certain paths through the terrain. It was predictable, not in where it would go, but in how it would choose where to go. 70 minutes remaining, Dr. Chen announced. But I think I see what you're planning. The environmental sensors are picking up subtle changes every time the Phantom adapts to a new biome. There's a slight delay. Tom nodded. It's not instantaneous. All that genetic engineering, all those adaptations, they take energy to use. It can't maintain everything at once. The next phase of their hunt began. Instead of chasing the Phantom directly, they began to herd it subtly. Max would show himself briefly in one location, encouraging the creature to flee toward where Nero was waiting. Not to catch it, just to force it to use another adaptation to escape. In the diplomatic box, Zarek watched with growing concern. Something was wrong. The Earth predators weren't behaving like any hunters he'd seen before. They weren't trying to catch the Phantom, they were systematically forcing it to demonstrate all of its defensive capabilities. They're tiring it out, one of his advisors clicked nervously. Making it burn through its energy reserves. But it was more than that. Through careful maneuvering, they were also limiting the Phantom's options for escape. Each time it was forced to adapt, it would choose the path that seemed to offer the most possibilities for evasion. But Tom and his tigers had studied its decision-making pattern. They weren't chasing it where it went, they were anticipating where it would choose to go. With 30 minutes remaining, they began to close the net. The Phantom found itself being subtly guided toward the crystal forest biome. Each time it tried to veer away, one of the tigers would appear exactly where it planned to escape, forcing it to choose another route. The crystal forest is perfect, Dr. Chen realized. All those reflective surfaces, it won't be able to rely on its camouflage. And the crystalline structures will interfere with its thermal regulation. The Phantom seemed to realize it was being manipulated too late. It entered the crystal forest at full speed, its body shifting rapidly between adaptations as it searched for an advantage. But the constant changes had drained its energy reserves, and the confusing reflections made it difficult to plan its escape routes. The final phase of the hunt was a masterpiece of coordination. Through their neural link, Tom, Max, and Nero moved as one consciousness spread across 3 bodies. They didn't need to chase the Phantom, they simply needed to be wherever it would logically choose to go next. With 10 minutes remaining, the Phantom made its final mistake. Exhausted and confused by the crystalline reflections, it hesitated for just a moment too long when choosing its escape route. Max and Nero appeared simultaneously on either side, while Tom cut off its forward path. The Phantom tried one last desperate adaptation, its body shifting rapidly between different forms. But it had no energy left for a full transformation. Max's carefully calculated leap brought it down, while Nero moved in to ensure it couldn't escape. The arena fell silent as Tom approached the captured prey. The Phantom, its body still weakly trying to shift between adaptations, lay pinned but largely unhurt. Through the neural link, he could feel Max and Nero's satisfaction, not just at the successful hunt, but at how they had accomplished it. Impossible, Zarek's voice crackled through the arena's speakers. The Phantom was engineered to be perfect. That was your mistake, Tom replied, loud enough for the cameras to pick up. You engineered it to be perfect. But nature doesn't work that way. Real predators and prey don't evolve to be perfect, they evolve to be good enough to survive. And they learn to work with their limitations. The implications weren't lost on the watching crowd. The Earth Tigers hadn't won through superior strength or speed or genetic engineering. They had won by combining natural hunting instincts with intelligence and strategy. They had demonstrated something that no amount of genetic engineering could replicate, the ability to learn, adapt, and overcome not through biological perfection, but through understanding and cooperation. As the arena began to reconfigure itself once again, Tom knelt beside his tigers. Through their neural link, he could feel their readiness for the final challenge. They had proven they could fight. They had proven they could hunt. Now they would face the Crear's ultimate champion, and they would prove once and for all that Earth's predators deserved their place in the galaxy. The final trial begins in 1 hour, Zarek announced, his tone heavy with barely contained fury. Your tigers will face our greatest creation, the apex. No rules, no time limits. Only one predator will walk away. Tom scratched behind Max and Nero's ears, feeling their confidence through the link. Looking forward to it, he replied simply. The crowd's murmuring grew louder as they were led back to the preparation chamber. The Earth Tigers had already surpassed everyone's expectations, but the final trial would be different. The apex was the pinnacle of Crear genetic engineering, a creature designed for one purpose only, to be the ultimate predator. But as Tom looked at his tigers, he felt no fear. They had something no engineered creature could match, a bond forged through years of trust and shared experiences. And in the end, that might make all the difference. The ultimate challenge. The preparation chamber felt colder than before. Tom sat cross-legged on the floor between Max and Nero, his eyes closed as he focused on the neural link. Through their shared connection, he could feel the tigers' steady heartbeats, their controlled breathing, their readiness for what was to come. "They're bringing in the apex," Dr. Chen's voice was tense in his ear. "Tom, the readings we're getting, this thing shouldn't exist." A holographic display materialized, showing their final opponent. The apex was a masterpiece of genetic engineering, though masterpiece seemed too beautiful a word for something so terrifying. It stood nearly 15 feet tall at the shoulder, its body a perfect fusion of every predatory adaptation the Crear had ever studied. Its skin shifted between scales, fur, and chitinous plates, adapting its protection to match any threat. Multiple limbs, each ending in different types of natural weapons, moved with fluid grace despite their size. But it was the creature's head that drew Tom's attention. Or rather, heads. The apex had 3 of them, each representing a different evolutionary approach to predation. One was reptilian, with heat-sensing pits and venomous fangs. Another was distinctly feline, with enhanced night vision and sonar capabilities. The third was insectoid, with compound eyes and sensory antennae. All 3 were clearly capable of independent thought while working in perfect coordination. The apex represents 10,000 years of genetic engineering, Zarek's voice announced proudly through the chamber's speakers. It combines the most effective predatory adaptations from every corner of the galaxy. Its reaction speed is faster than neural transmission. Its strength can shatter reinforced titanium. Its intelligence rivals our best tactical computers. Tom opened his eyes, studying the holographic display carefully. Through the neural link, he shared his observations with Max and Nero. The tiger's response was immediate, not fear, but intense focus. They had faced seemingly impossible odds before, during their training on Earth and in their previous trials here. They designed it to be unbeatable, Dr. Chen noted, her voice thoughtful. But you know what that means, don't you? They designed it to win, Tom replied softly. Not to survive. That was the fundamental difference between engineered perfection and natural evolution. The apex had been created to be the ultimate predator, but it had never had to learn, to adapt, to overcome failure. Every aspect of its being was optimized for victory, leaving no room for growth or change. The chamber's door slid open, revealing the arena once again. This time, the terrain was completely flat, a vast circular platform surrounded by energy barriers. There would be no hiding, no complex strategy. This was to be a direct confrontation. As they entered the arena, Tom felt a subtle shift in the neural link. Max and Nero weren't just ready for battle, they were drawing on everything they had learned in their previous trials. Through their shared connection, Tom could access not just their current thoughts but their accumulated experiences. The apex was already waiting in the center of the arena. Up close, it was even more impressive. Each of its heads tracked their movement independently, while its body shifted through different defensive configurations. The crowd had fallen completely silent, sensing they were about to witness something unprecedented. The final trial has no rules, Zarek announced. The battle continues until one side can no longer fight. Begin. The apex moved with impossible speed, covering half the arena in a single bound. Its attack pattern was perfect, one head struck high, one low, while the third prepared a follow-up strike. Any normal opponent would have been torn apart in seconds. But Tom and his tigers weren't normal opponents. Through their neural link, they moved as one consciousness spread across three bodies. Max and Nero split apart at the last possible moment, while Tom rolled forward, disrupting the Apex's perfect attack pattern. What followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Apex was stronger, faster, and more heavily armed with natural weapons. But Max and Nero had something it didn't: years of real combat experience and the ability to adapt their strategy on the fly. Its heads can't all focus on the same target, Tom transmitted through the link. Use that. The tigers understood immediately. They began a complex series of coordinated attacks, never staying still long enough for all three heads to track them. The Apex's perfect coordination began to show tiny flaws as its different heads tried to respond to different threats simultaneously. But the engineered predator was far from defeated. It adjusted its strategy, its body morphing to create additional defensive layers. Spines erupted from its skin, dripping with neurotoxins. Its limbs split and reformed, trying to counter every possible angle of attack. Energy readings are spiking, Dr. Chen warned. All those adaptations, it's burning through its reserves fast. That was another weakness of engineered perfection. The Apex had been designed to end fights quickly, not to engage in prolonged combat. Every transformation, every adaptation, consumed energy that natural predators would have learned to conserve. The battle continued, becoming more intense with each passing minute. The Apex's attacks were devastating when they landed, but Max and Nero had learned from their previous trials. They used their smaller size and superior agility to stay just out of reach, forcing the engineered predator to constantly adjust its strategy. Through the neural link, Tom coordinated their movements with precision that matched any tactical computer. But unlike a computer, he could also draw on the tiger's natural hunting instincts and their ability to improvise. The turning point came 15 minutes into the battle. The Apex, frustrated by its inability to land a decisive blow, attempted to split its body into multiple forms simultaneously. It was a spectacular display of genetic engineering, and a critical mistake. Now, Tom's command through the neural link was unnecessary. Max and Nero had already recognized the opportunity. The Apex's attempt at multiple transformations had momentarily disrupted its defensive capabilities. More importantly, it had divided its attention between too many potential forms. Max struck first, targeting the junction between the reptilian and feline heads. His attack wasn't meant to cause damage but to force the Apex to reinforce that area. Nero followed immediately, attacking the base of the insectoid head from the opposite side. The Apex's automated defenses responded perfectly to each threat. And that was exactly what they had counted on. Tom had positioned himself directly in front of the creature, seemingly vulnerable. The Apex's tactical programming recognized the obvious target, and all three heads struck simultaneously. But Tom was already moving, diving between the Apex's legs as Max and Nero launched their real attack. The Apex's perfect defenses, optimized to respond to direct threats, couldn't handle the complex sequence of feints and misdirections. Its attempt to maintain multiple forms had spread its regenerative capabilities too thin. When the tigers struck from unexpected angles, its armor couldn't adapt quickly enough. The battle reached its crescendo in a flurry of movement almost too fast to follow. The Apex's head snapped and struck with lethal precision, but Max and Nero were never quite where its targeting predicted they would be. Each time it adapted to counter one threat, it left itself vulnerable to another. Finally, in a moment of perfect coordination, Max and Nero struck simultaneously at precisely calculated points. The Apex's overtaxed systems couldn't handle the strain of adapting to multiple attacks while maintaining its transformed state. Its genetic perfection became its undoing as its body tried to assume too many defensive forms at once. The creature's collapse was spectacular. Its carefully engineered systems, pushed beyond their limits, began to break down. The multiple forms it had tried to maintain merged and shifted uncontrollably. All three heads tried to issue different commands simultaneously, creating a cascade of conflicting responses. In the end, the galaxy's ultimate predator lay defeated not by superior strength or speed, but by the one thing its creators hadn't been able to engineer, the ability to learn from failure and adapt beyond its programming. The arena erupted in chaos. The crowd, which had watched in stunned silence, exploded into a cacophony of sounds. Some were cheering, others arguing, but all were witnessing something they had believed impossible, the defeat of the supposedly unbeatable apex by two primitive Earth predators. Tom knelt beside Max and Nero, checking them for injuries. Through the neural link, he could feel their exhaustion, but also their fierce pride. They had faced the galaxy's best and proven that natural evolution, combined with intelligence and training, could overcome even the most advanced genetic engineering. In the diplomatic box, High Commissioner Zarek stood rigid with shock. His masterpiece, the pinnacle of Crear engineering, had been defeated. But more importantly, the victory had demonstrated something that challenged the very foundation of his species' beliefs about genetic superiority. As medical drones moved in to tend to the fallen apex, Tom looked up at the diplomatic box. He didn't need to say anything. The tiger's victory had said everything necessary about Earth's right to preserve its natural predators. The final trial was over. But its implications would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what it truly meant to be an apex predator. Legacy of the Hunt. The aftermath of the apex's defeat sent shockwaves through the galactic community. The Grand Arena's medical bay buzzed with activity as xenobiologists and genetic engineers swarmed around the fallen champion, their instruments recording its rapid biological breakdown. The perfect predator, it seemed, had been engineered with victory as its only acceptable outcome. Defeat had triggered a cascade of system failures that its creators had never thought to account for. Tom sat in the recovery chamber with Max and Nero, all three connected through their neural link as medical drones tended to their injuries. The tigers had suffered some wounds during the final battle, but nothing serious. Their natural healing abilities, unmodified by genetic engineering, were already at work. The data we collected is extraordinary, Dr. Chen's voice was excited in Tom's ear. The way Max and Nero adapted their fighting style, the perfect coordination through the neural link, we've proven that natural predators can not only compete with engineered ones but can actually surpass them in the right circumstances. But it wasn't just the scientific implications that were causing a stir. The political landscape of the galaxy was shifting in real time. Representatives from dozens of worlds were demanding emergency sessions with the Galactic Council. The Crear's push for genetic advancement of all predator species was facing its first serious challenge. The door to the recovery chamber slid open, revealing High Commissioner Zarek. The massive insectoid moved with less confidence now, his ceremonial armor dulled to a flat gray. Behind him came a procession of alien dignitaries, each representing a different faction within the Galactic Council. Colonel Riner, Zarek's translator crackled, his mandibles moving stiffly. The Council requires your presence for an emergency session. Your companions may accompany you. Through the neural link, Tom felt Max and Nero's alertness spike. They were tired but ready for whatever came next. As they followed the procession through the arena's corridors, the impact of their victory became more apparent. Alien spectators pressed against barrier fields to catch glimpses of them, their communications devices capturing every moment. The council chamber was a vast amphitheater, its walls lined with holographic displays showing representatives from worlds too distant to attend in person. The chamber's center held a circular platform where speakers could address the gathered delegates. Tom and his tigers took their place there, facing the assembled leaders of galactic civilization. "We have witnessed something unprecedented," began the council's chief arbiter, an ethereal being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix. "The implications of today's events must be carefully considered." Zarek stepped forward, his mandibles clicking rapidly. The trials were meant to prove the superiority of advanced genetic engineering. Instead, he paused, seeming to struggle with the words. Instead, we have been shown its limitations. The chamber erupted in discussion, thousands of alien voices debating in hundreds of languages. The holographic displays flickered with rapid-fire exchanges between distant worlds. Tom stood quietly, one hand resting on each tiger's flank, their shared consciousness taking in every detail of this historic moment. The Earth tigers succeeded not because they were stronger or faster, Zarek continued, but because they possessed qualities we had dismissed as primitive. Their ability to learn, to adapt, to form genuine bonds, these are things that cannot be engineered. We have been misguided in our approach. A representative from the Arcturian collective rose, their crystalline form catching the chamber's light. We have received preliminary analysis of the Apex's failure. Its perfect engineering left no room for growth, no capacity to handle scenarios outside its programming. In pursuing perfection, we created something fundamentally flawed. More than that, added a floating congregation of gas-based intelligences, the neural link between the human and his predators demonstrated something we had thought impossible, true cooperation between species that evolved separately. This has implications far beyond the realm of genetic engineering. Tom stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment. Through the neural link, he drew strength from Max and Nero's unwavering presence. What you saw today wasn't just about proving Earth's predators worthy of preservation. It was about demonstrating a different kind of advancement, one based on understanding and cooperation rather than modification and control. The chamber fell silent as holographic displays showed footage from their trials. The perfect coordination during the survival gauntlet, the brilliant strategy of the hunt, and finally, the defeat of the apex, all of it highlighted a fundamental truth that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had overlooked. We propose, the Chief Arbiter announced, a complete review of the Galactic Council's policies regarding genetic engineering in species preservation. Furthermore, we recommend the establishment of a new division dedicated to studying Earth's approach to predator conservation and training. The implications were staggering. Earth, which had been fighting for simple recognition of its right to preserve its native species, was now being looked to as a leader in a new field of interspecies cooperation. The Tiger's victory had opened doors that centuries of diplomatic negotiations had failed to budge. Zarek approached Tom and his tigers, his massive form bending in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. We were wrong, he admitted, his translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in his clicking speech. The Crear have spent millennia pursuing perfect predators through genetic engineering. We never considered that perfection might not be the goal we should strive for. Throughout the chamber, representatives from various worlds were already forming new alliances and research initiatives. The possibility of combining Earth's training methods with advanced technology while preserving natural evolution had captured the imagination of even the most traditionally conservative species. Dr. Chen's voice came through Tom's earpiece, thick with emotion. Tom, you're receiving requests from dozens of worlds. They want to learn about the MAIP program, to understand how we achieved the neural link without compromising the Tiger's natural abilities. This is going to change everything. As the council session continued, Tom found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Through the neural link, he shared memories with Max and Nero, their first meeting when they were cubs, the years of training, the battles they had faced together. What the Crear and others had seen as primitive limitations were actually their greatest strengths. The days that followed would be filled with diplomatic meetings, scientific conferences, and the beginning of a new era in galactic relations. Earth's position in the galaxy was secure, but more importantly, its approach to working with natural predators would help shape the future of countless worlds. Max and Nero would become legends in the galactic community, their story taught in xenobiology classes and military academies across the stars. But for Tom, they would always be his partners, his friends, living proof that the bond between species could be stronger than any genetic enhancement. As they prepared to return to Earth, now accompanied by a delegation of alien scientists eager to learn from their success, Tom felt a deep sense of satisfaction through the neural link. They had come to the stars to defend Earth's right to preserve its predators. They were returning having shown the galaxy a better way forward. The Crear would eventually dismantle their genetic engineering programs, focusing instead on understanding and working with natural evolution. Other species would follow, leading to a renaissance in xenobiology and conservation. The age of engineering was giving way to the age of cooperation. And it had all started with two tigers and a human who understood that true strength comes not from being engineered to be perfect, but from having the freedom to learn, adapt, and grow together. Years later, visitors to Earth's first Galactic Wildlife Academy would see a holographic display in the entrance hall. It showed three figures, a human and two tigers, standing proud in an alien arena, having just changed the course of galactic history. Beneath it, a simple inscription read: "Perfect is not the enemy of good. Perfect is the enemy of better." The galaxy had learned its lesson. The future belonged not to those who could engineer the deadliest predators, but to those who could understand, preserve, and work alongside them. Earth's tigers, once dismissed as primitive and obsolete, had become the blueprint for a new kind of progress, one that celebrated the power of natural evolution and the bonds that could form between different species. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other worlds were beginning to rediscover their own natural predators, learning to work with them rather than trying to improve upon them. The legacy of Max and Nero's victory would echo through the centuries, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfection, it's the ability to form genuine connections and learn from each other. The hunt was over. The real adventure was just beginning.